Hey there, Marcus McDaniel here again. This is the video for reading of week 6. And so this week, some of the main ideas that we talked about were mainly about like forces of motion, curving motion, speeding up, slowing down, things like that. And some of the videos involved a lot of coding on how to go about solving for these, different motions. Stuff like that. So we started out learning about like curving motion, and so I remember one of the things was talking about like you can only speed up or slow down if you had like the delta P parallel and the perpendiculars, and delta V parallel and perpendiculars, things like that, if like not equal to 0, because that also means that F net is not equal to 0. So that was mainly, I feel like that was repeated a lot throughout the series of 6 videos that we had to watch. They definitely talked a lot about parallel and perpendicular. So I most of the topics were kind of new. Never really heard of that parallel perpendicular before. I understand like when they do solve a parallel and perpendicular, like when they draw it out, I understand, okay, like you can see why they're doing what they're doing. But it's still new to me. I definitely would need a lot more work on like figuring out how to solve them, especially like in the coding, like knowing which formula to use. Because that was definitely a challenging aspect. Was once that coding video came around, I was like, it would tell you to pause the video and try to solve the formula for yourself, and it was a little challenging trying to do that. So I still need to do more work on that, especially coding, because coding is going to be a huge part, I think, in my major. So that's definitely a section that, I kind of need to really dive into. But yeah, so I don't really know if much of this was any like review for me. Most of the topics were pretty new. Maybe the only review I could say would be, finding F net when you're just looking at tension or maybe like that, or, drawing the free body diagrams. Just might be review only because we've talked about it in previous weeks. So it's not like it's like review where I have mastery of, but it's just review because it's fresh in my mind from the last couple weeks. So that'd be the only way I could say it's review. But yeah, so definitely for me, like just understanding the difference, when you're trying to solve without using the parallel and perpendicular, like the videos kind of went a little bit fast, so I got a little bit lost in solving, especially when they start involving like the theta and like the cosine sine angles. For me, that's a little confusing, so I'll definitely have to use YouTube, maybe go through the videos again at a slower speed to try and really grasp onto those topics. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot of the stuff, it just makes sense. I never really thought of using like that kissing circle, which helps you identify FNet, things like that. So they introduced a little bit like just new tricks that you could use that we haven't introduced before. A lot of the diagrams that they had were really easy to follow. If I could say like the path of parallels going down, perpendicular to the right, the object's on its speeding up down slope. Same as when they use big R, the smaller R is, the more of a sharp turn you have. The bigger the R, the more of a relaxed curve that you'll have. So basically for this week, most of the stuff was about curving motion and just forces of motion involving parallel and perpendicular lines. But yeah, so it was definitely a jump. I feel like it was a confusing week for me. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I definitely will refer to YouTube and as well as go back through edX just to try to, grasp it a little bit more. But it seems pretty interesting, so I think this will be a tough week, but I think we can do it. But I'll see you guys next week.